Hello, and welcome to Cybersecurity Mythbusters. I'm Patrick McBride, the Chief Marketing Officer at Beyond Identity, and I'm joined today by Jason Casey, our cybersecurity expert and the Beyond Identity CTO.
Hello. Today's question comes to us from Elena. Dear Cybersecurity Mythbusters, does multi-factor authentication stop credential theft?
Ooh, great question, Elena. We know that implementing MFA makes us more secure, but with the ultimate goal of preventing logins from unauthorized people, does MFA stop that kind of credential theft?
Patrick, I know. Let's call Roger.
Roger Grimes. That's a great idea. This is right up his alley.
So, does MFA stop credential attacks? Well, first we need to think about what is a credential attack. So a credential is, let's think of it as a knowledge factor to start with. Knowledge factor really just being a password. I have a password in my head. I'm going to use that credential to log into a service. So I guess we can think of it as three ways of getting at the credential. Number one is you crack open my head and take it out. Now clearly that's not possible, but I have to put my credential in through a browser when I log into a site. So credential could be stolen from the machine that I'm using, right? Because it clearly ends up in memory. That memory can end up in the file system. That credential has to get transmitted across a connection to the service I'm trying to connect to. So the credential could be stolen along the way. It could be stolen out of the target site. Additionally, what if an adversary could force me to disclose the credential in some way? Could it somehow trick me thinking that it is a legitimate service that I'm going to try and log into and essentially share my credentials? So that's one part of credential harvesting. So that's the problem. The problem is when I have these symmetric secrets, not only can they be stolen, but they can be divulged because they have to travel around, and we're still relying on the human to kind of understand, are they going to a legitimate site or not? Roger, welcome back.
Well, thanks, Jason and Patrick, for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Roger, what can you tell us about MFA solutions stopping credential theft?
So what most people don't know is about 95% of MFA and even passwordless options, if you hear passwordless, can be stolen or bypassed as simple as bypassing or stealing a password. So the whole reason we're supposedly moving from login name and password to something better like MFA or passwordless is because passwords are so easy to steal. But most of the solutions, most of the MFA and passwordless solutions are as easy to steal and bypass as the passwords they are intended to replace. And how does that occur? The most common way, and let me say, this is not a theoretical thing. It has happened millions of times over the last couple of decades, and today, most malware information password stealing kits have the functionality to steal MFA credentials and passwordless credentials built into the kit. So it's default to what the criminals are getting when they buy it. But the way that it works is that the victim is sent a phishing email that is attempting to get them to log on to whatever website it is that credential is related to, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, Google, their company website, whatever. But the email is crafted to look like a legitimate email, and really oftentimes the only thing that's really different between that and a real email is a rogue URL in it. And if the potential victim, took the time to hover over that link, they would see that it's not taking them to the real place that they thought they were going to. Instead, if they get tricked and they click in on it, it goes to a hacker's what's called rogue transparent proxy website that then takes them to the real website. So the user is actually seeing the website or the service that they thought they were going to see, but what they don't know is that the URL is indicating that they're actually directly connected to a rogue transparent proxy website. And that rogue transparent proxy website can now capture anything that the victim types in or sends or anything coming back from the real website. So what they're oftentimes capturing is that multi-factor authentication credential that is sent that goes through the man-in-the-middle website to the real website. So if you're asked to type in a code, a 4-digit code or a 6-digit code or something like that, when you send it, the attacker can get it. Unless the MFA or passwordless solution has some technical mechanism that can prevent or detect that man-in-the-middle attack, well, that man-in-the-middle website is getting all that information. And another thing that man-in-the-middle website will do is say, hey, I don't care how you authenticate. I don't care if you're using 1-factor, 2-factor, 10-factor, fingerprint, eye retina scan, whatever. They don't care how you authenticate. If the man-in-the-middle attacker is left in that connection string, they'll just wait for you to successfully log on in. And anytime you successfully log in to a website, that website will send back to the victim's browser what's known as an access control token cookie. It's just a text file, usually has like a randomly generated identifier in it, but essentially that's kind of like the passport for that user on that website. It says that this is who you are, you've successfully logged on in, and now you can move across the website. Well, the attacker, if they have that man-in-the-middle website enabled in the connection, they will steal that access control token cookie on the way to the legitimate victim, disconnect that victim, take over the victim's session, and then change things so they can stay in control of it. They change the password or the PIN or the phone number, whatever they need. And unfortunately, somewhere around 90-95% of all multi-factor authentication, most of the passwordless solutions you'll see are susceptible to this man-in-the-middle attack. So when I talk to people about, hey, you should use an MFA option that is phishing resistant, this is what I'm talking about, is that it should try to resist from being able to be successfully attacked by a man-in-the-middle attacker.
Well, that was really helpful. Thanks a lot, Roger.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So Jason, what did we learn with this one?
Well, symmetric secrets, right? Credentials that move are almost impossible to defend. And we have to protect the victim against accidental signing, or in technical parlance, a confused deputy. So we need to introduce a software authenticator that's executing the client side of the authentication protocol, taking what is fundamentally a computer problem away from the person, and only sign challenges that are actually being issued from the domain that's assigned that key and nothing else.
Take the user back out of the loop.
Take the human out of the computer's problem.
Right. There you have it, Elena. When it comes to whether or not MFA stops credential theft, the answer is it depends on specifically what type of MFA you're using. It depends.
Definitely depends.
Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Cybersecurity Mythbusters. If you have any rumors, questions, or myths you want us to test, be sure to let us know. We'll see you next time.
Explosions?
That was pretty cool.